part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Red Guy and Rhoda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. Shout out to our fantastic producer, Ty Quartz, making sure we sound good out there in the podcatosphere for you. And Michael Red Guy, always a pleasure to get back together with you. And we're down to two teams in the National Football League, Super Bowl 57. It's the Eagles, E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles, fly, and the Chiefs of Kansas City and what they're calling the Andy Reid Bowl, the Kelsey Bowl, all kind of names for Super Bowl 57. And I figured we'd go back and look at the two teams that were victorious on, what would you call it, Championship Sunday, I guess, in the NFL, They call that, Reg. The
Conference
NFC
Championship Sunday, yeah.
Yeah, AFC Championship. You want to start with the very impressive Philadelphia Eagles and the job they did on the San Francisco 49ers, 31-7?
Yeah, good domination, man. I mean, kind of knew, Kenny, that as good as San Francisco is defensively, I think – well, I know their greater strength is defensively is in that secondary, and the front seven, while again, formidable, but Kenny, I kind of thought that that Eagles ground game would give them problems, and that they did, right? I mean, they ran the football pretty much when they wanted. I mean, second and long and even third and a mid 4 and 5, they still ran the football and moved the sticks. And I don't know about you, but, a lot of people question Jalen Hurts and his arm strength. And
I did, Reg. I'm guilty.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure he'd be able to make it through the entire season and could throw the ball well enough to lead this team to the Super Bowl. I'm wrong.
Well, and I mean, again, you got to, and I get it, because here's a guy that, lost his starting quarterback job at Tuscaloosa. Right. Nick Saban benched him for Tua. And, we know that story, and the rest is history. Doesn't get drafted till the second round, right?
Yep.
And he comes in, and I mean, the dude is 6 foot, 175, 180 pounds. As we said, not the most impressive physical stature and what quarterbacks are these days. But Kenny, I guess I'm going to use that just old, worn out. He's a winner, man. He wins and he makes plays, and they've got a tremendous offensive line. And as we know, they've got their skill players too. Some of them not even household names, but as we could see, probably they're going to be. I think this is a damn good football team. I believe they were the best football team in the NFL all year long. So yesterday doesn't surprise me. No.
Yeah, Reg, the defensive line, the ability to rush 4 and drop 7. It's interesting that they had the same plan 5 years ago, but Reg, different coach, different quarterback, totally different team. They've transformed that Super Bowl winning team, right? 5 years ago in Super Bowl 52 when they beat the New England Patriots. It's a new coach, new quarterback, but the scheme is still the same, and they believe in that scheme from the front office down, Reg, that's how you're going to win in this league. You're going to win with a very good defense that rushes 4, drops 7, and we're going to have big guys up front. We're going to protect our quarterback, run the football, play action off of that, and if our quarterback doesn't make mistakes with our well-rounded team, we're going to be able to go out there, play with anybody, beat anybody, and they've pretty much done that this entire year. They won the turnover battle yesterday, 3-0. They rushed for 4 touchdowns. Hurts didn't have to throw the ball much yesterday as they ran it at will. He was featured on that one drive in the second half, and he gets the push, the quarterback touchdown there across the goal line. So very impressive, and I didn't believe in them in the beginning of the season as a team as well as Hurts, but I do now. I think they're the favorites, and the people in Vegas agree with me as well. The last I saw, they're listed as 2.5-point favorites.
They are, and I think you just brought up there's a lot of strong things to say about Philly, but you just brought up the one that to me resonates as far and away number one. When you can get to the quarterback and get home when you only have to rush 4, Kenny, I mean, think about I think I could defensive coordinate that football team because of the strength of that front four. All four of them, Ken, with double-digit sack numbers, all four of them. I mean, and that goes to show you, hey, man, you don't have to blitz. These guys get home. You don't have to try to dial up intricate defensive packages to confuse a quarterback because those guys put pressure on and get home. And when you got 7 in coverage, Kenny, and, and most of them very talented as the Philadelphia Eagles have, listen, that changes the game, Ken. That changes the game. And we've seen it many times if you watch the Eagles play in regular season games. And, of course, yesterday it was a domination. And, I don't know. We'll never know. But, I don't care if Jimmy Garoppolo was out there, Trey Lance was out there, Brock Purdy.
Right.
It doesn't matter, Ken. I think the result would have been the same.
Yeah,
that's my feeling.
I'm with you 100%. And I know it really hampered the 49ers when Purdy hyperextended his arm. It's a torn ulnar collateral ligament, as we find out today. And then Josh Jackson has to come in. Then he gets a concussion. You got to put Purdy back in, and he can't throw the ball. I understand. Yeah, that really hurt the 49ers. But I don't care who would have been their quarterback like you, Reg. I think Philadelphia finds a way to win that game yesterday. And the physicality that they play with both on the offense and the defense is refreshing. When we see a lot of these finesse offenses just slinging the ball all over the place and everything, and this is a smash mouth in your face team. And Nick Sirianni, you mentioned that Jalen Hurts, he's just a winner. Well, so is Sirianni to the tune of 3 or 4 national championships as a player coach for Larry Karras and Mount Union. And we had Coach Karras on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC last week talking about Nick Sirianni. And we asked him if he ever thought Nick would amount to this as a head coach. He said, no, not really, but I knew he was a winner, and football is football. And Jim Tressel adhered to that when he was at Youngstown State, and people questioned whether or not that would work at Ohio State. Football is football. Physical defense, you tackle well, you protect the football, field position, you can win football games that way, whether it's Division 3, 2, 1 in college, the NFL, the USFL, the XFL. And so Sirianni's a winner, and those guys play hard for him. And it's a nice local storyline to this Super Bowl that has so many different storylines between the Chiefs and the Eagles.
Oh, it really is. And listen, I'm not going to say they're unbeatable because everybody is beatable.
Right.
But, Kenny, you better have not just your A-plus game physically as an opponent, but as you just laid out with Nick Sirianni and his coaching staff, you better make sure you've got to have everything locked in tight because they'll get you if you don't. So are they unbeatable? No, they're not, they're not unbeatable, but I as good as Kansas City is, and I love Andy Reid and that football team, but boy, Ken, I favor Philly in this one because of all the things we just said. So, they've been, as I said, they've been the best football team in my mind all year long from that second weekend in September when the ball went up in the air, and they still are today.
The equalizer, the great equalizer to beating a great football team, turnovers. They have to give you it a lot, and you can't give it to them at all if you're the underdog. So I'm with you. Impressed with the Eagles, not so much with Kansas City. Now, don't get me wrong. I was impressed with the way Patrick Mahomes played on a high ankle sprain yesterday, Reg. He proved to me that he's the best football player in the National Football League. To be able to go out and do that on one wheel, 1.5 wheels, whatever you want to call it, 300-plus yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and he made a play with his feet when he had to, right, and got the 15-yard bonus.
Yep.
And they survived 23-21 at home in Arrowhead, not Burrowhead, as Travis Kelce pointed out after the game. Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
How about Kelce, the Cleveland Heights man? Yeah. He just had me laughing all post game long, Ken, with him. That he just went right after the man. of
I love it,
Cincinnati
man.
called him a jabroni.
Oh, it was great. But, Mahomes showed me that he's something special to be able to do that. And you could see he was in pain, but he gutted it out. Now, I don't know how healthy he's going to be in 2 weeks. It's good that they have 2 weeks in between the games so he can get treatment, but he's not going to be 100%. And so that defensive line, and we'll get to that a little later, that he'll be going up against, as good as Cincinnati's D-line is, this is a lot better with the Philadelphia Eagles. But getting back to yesterday's game, Reg, I thought Joe Burrow had an average game. Now,
Yes.
some of that wasn't his fault because his line let him down, and Zach Taylor, I thought, didn't do a good job of adjusting, till it was, I don't want to say too late, but he waited too long and then didn't make late adjustments. But I will say this, every call that needed to go Kansas City's way in that game, Reg, or calls that weren't called, went Kansas City's way, especially in that fourth quarter. And there's an epidemic of horrible officiating and refereeing in the NBA and the NFL these days. And we saw it this weekend with LeBron against the Celtics. And I think in that Kansas City-Cincinnati game, I thought Cincinnati got screwed. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, no, you're right. It wasn't the most accomplished or efficient day from the folks who wear the stripes and make the calls. Yeah, I certainly concur with you there. Now, that having been said, though, I think what you brought up before that, Joe Burrow, and this is some of the Kansas City D too. Now, there's a bit of a difference. As we said, Philadelphia doesn't have to do that. They just line up and say, 4 are coming and 7's in coverage, so what are you going to do about it?
Right.
Now, Cincinnati had to deal with KC, Andy Reid and his defensive coaches changing some things up. They threw some stuff at him, but you're right. I'm not going to say I was disappointed in Joe Burrow. Again, the kid is on the rise, having had another tremendous year. But yesterday, Ken, his accuracy, his efficiency, it wasn't there. He missed multiple throws that we usually see him make, right? And again, a lot of that credit has got to go with the defensive game plan and philosophically what they did. But Burrow wasn't had his Joey Magic best yesterday. And there were a couple instances, it kind of made you go, this is going to come back and haunt Cincinnati, and that it did. Now, credit to them that they got themselves in a position where they had a chance to win the football game. But, man, I was hoping to see overtime with Mahomes and Burrows, right? And Burrow.
Yeah, absolutely, with the new rules, too, would have been fun.
Yeah, because each of them are going to get the ball. Yep. And at least and that, the kickoff return, it was punt return or kickoff?
Punt return.
Punt return, yeah, punt return. And, I happen to be watching, and I love my man Rex Ryan. I happen to be watching him on television today on one of the national shows, and he's right. I mean, what the hell are you doing punting the football in the middle of the field to allow a return? You angle that off to – well, he's 1,000,000% right. And that was the first problem that Cincinnati had, and the big return. And you kind of just knew that, Mahomes, man, Mahomes doesn't let too many of these opportunities go by the wayside, right? And Absolutely. He sure did not yesterday either.
Reg, the punt return, though, I've gone back and I've watched it numerous times. There were 2 illegal blocks in the back that were not called.
I know. You're right. I know. Yep.
And that, instead of having the ball at the 40-yard line, you're talking about at your own 20.
That's
okay?
Right. I know.
And those were egregious errors by that officiating crew on the play in which Mahomes was hit out of bounds, and he was hit out of bounds. I'm not questioning that call, okay? To me, that was roughing the passer out of bounds. But if you go to the backside of that, you can see an egregious hold on one of the Bengals defensive linemen, right? On the intentional grounding call that went against Burrow, and I thought it was intentional ground. I was surprised they didn't call it sooner. Well, there was also Clark with a hands to the face of one of the offensive linemen that wasn't called. So that's why I said earlier, every call or non-call went the way of the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'll disagree with what you thought that was intentional grounding. Samaji, he got it. First of all, the pass, he got his arm hit, right? Burrow.
Right. Yeah.
And P. Ryan was there. P. Ryan was in the middle of the football field. Now, I'm not going to say they were looking to set up a middle screen, but I thought P. Ryan was within
Did you?
4 to 6 yards of them. I did, yeah. I looked at it a few times, but Mr. Ben Torbert and his officiating crew yesterday, oh my goodness. During the course of the game, of course, everybody's looking at that, the roughing the passer, in this case, the passer becoming a runner by young Mr. Osai. Felt really badly for the kid. I mean, he's crying after the game. And I think it was Hill and Reeder and a couple of the defensive, they stood with him while he was being interviewed because they didn't want to have him go through that himself. But Ken, I mean, that whole game. I mean, again, there was a couple of calls. Kansas City fans were mad.
Reg,
on a few
how about
calls.
the do-over down? They just gave him a do-over, man.
Never. We're just gonna, we don't know. We don't know what the hell the time is supposed to be.
Right.
We don't know if we did blow the play dead before the ball was being snapped. So we're going to let that, and we'll just do the down over.
That's it.
What?
Yeah. In an AFC championship game, right? Come on, man.
Shouldn't happen in a preseason game.
Shouldn't happen in a high school game. Unreal. Yeah.
It was. Incredibly unreal.
For what was at stake for that officiate, they shouldn't be allowed to do another championship or super, any of those guys. They should be fired. I'm a proponent of, you know what? You want to better the officiating, make them full-time jobs. Make those guys give up their day job if they want to, or they give up the officiating, and you train officials, and that's all they do, because this is a gazillion-dollar business.
Yeah,
and you mean to tell me you can't hire full-time officials to officiate this business where there is so much at stake for not only the organization, the coaches, the players, but how about us gamblers out here now, Reg, that it's legal in Ohio? Huh? How about us that had the Bengals plus 1.5 yesterday in a parlay, right?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. Is that what you had?
Bengals I did. Yeah. I had the Bengals plus 1.5.
I had the Bengals too. Yeah, I just took them straight up. I thought they were going to win.
Okay, all right. I had the Bengals.
One big mistake of the weekend.
Yeah, I had the Bengals plus 1.5, and I gave the 3 and took the Eagles. Thanks to you, I believed in what you told me the last time we did a podcast. So I'm sitting there watching. So think of the gamblers looking at that, right? The sharks in Vegas and the whales and all the big money. So you mean to tell me you can't afford to have full-time officials?
Yes.
So that everybody is on the same page, and all these rules and determinations of these rules and understandings of these rules are all the same, and everybody's taught the same thing, as opposed to, well, I'm from 30 years ago, you were 10 years ago, I'm a principal in high school, you're a lawyer over here. No, none of that shit. Not in the NFL, man. You can't. No. They've got to have full-time officials.
That's right. And you know what? So pay him another 75 or 100 grand a year. Yep. So you can take Mr. High school chemistry teacher off that. You give him another 7,500K. He's cool. He's happy. Now you got him full-time. And that, I couldn't agree with you more. This has gotten to the point now where, the NFL is really going to start getting a whole lot of blowback. Yep. If things like this continue with guys who, I don't mean any, discredit to anybody's profession here, but, again, guys who are, selling pharmaceutical material during the day, right?
Right.
And then you're bringing them in Monday through Friday, and then you fly them in to have them officiate an NFL game. Pay them more money, make them full-time employees, and I think you'll get a better officiating performance each and every week when it matters.
Agree 100%. All that having been said, kudos to Patrick Mahomes on a bad wheel for finding a way, selling the roughing the runner, passer penalty, whatever you want, Academy Award performance there, sliding into the bench. And then he still had to make the field goal, right? Butker still had to put it through the uprights. He did. They advance on, 5 straight years they've been in the AFC championship game, and now 3 out of those 5, they've made it to the Super Bowl. They're 1-1 so far going into Super Bowl 57 against the Eagles. So I'm not calling them a dynasty. That was the Patriots, and they've got a ways to go to catch the Patriots. but they are without a doubt the team to beat in the AFC. And, the Eagles, this second Super Bowl in 6 years for them. So that's not too bad. You'll take one every 3 years with a chance to win that, right?
Wouldn't you? Yes.
Hell, Cleveland hasn't had one since, the Super Bowl began 57 years ago.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story, right? But no, you get to me. That's if you make a Super Bowl and win a conference championship once every 3 years, and of course you're in the playoffs the other two, and maybe even losing in the conference championship game, like Mahomes. Listen, now this is big time. This is this is top of the food chain for what Kansas City and their quarterback are doing, Ken. No doubt about it.
Yeah, so that's our Super Bowl 57, February 12th, Glendale, Arizona. It will be the Eagles favored by 2.5 against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Reg, let's get a break in here on the Reg and Rhoda podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. When we come back, let's kind of preview that matchup, strengths, weaknesses of both teams, and also tie in the Browns, because as I watch these games now, Reg, part of my brain is focused on how far away are the Browns from the Eagles, from the Chiefs, from the Bengals, who they beat on Monday night, from the Buffalo Bills, from the San Francisco 49ers. So I want to get your thoughts as well on how far you think the Browns are away from any of these teams that have competed or are competing for a Super Bowl. So that's what's coming your way next when we return here on the Reg and Rhoda podcast, powered by MGM Northfield Park.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary. And I'm Jason. Opening cards as a kid, no matter what was in the pack, you always had that stick of chewing gum. Well, it turns out Gary and I opened up a box of 86 Tops last year, and let me tell you, the chewing gum does not age well.
Join us on the Ball Card Show,
the sports podcast for the sports collector.
And we continue with the Reg and Rhoda podcast, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park. Northfield Park, your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening with a 6 p.m. post time. Wager and win daily on top thoroughbred and harness tracks from around the world with action starting around noon. Plus, you can enter to play the free handicapping contest every Sunday for a chance to win some cold, hard cash. Top prize, 500 buckaroos. Registration begins there at 11 a.m. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park. All right, Reg, 49.5 is the over-under. 2.5 as of the time we're taping this podcast is the spread in favor of the Eagles. I expect that to fluctuate depending on where and how much the money is coming in, which team it's coming in on. But I agree. You agree that the Eagles are the favorites. Why do we think the Eagles are the favorites? What is it when you compare these two teams that has you believing They deserve to be the favorites, and I think you and I are leaning that way in picking a winner, depending on what injuries occur between now and then.
Should be the favorites, yeah. Again, I think there's a decided advantage that we've already brought up. I mean, defensively, now you may say, well, they won't be able to get home like that with 4 against Kansas City. Well, they've done it against everybody else this year.
Right.
So I got to see them be denied from not getting home by an offensive line. And Kenny, the little nuances off that, I don't want to get too technical X and O here, but, how much does Andy Reid decide? Hell, I got to keep a tight end to chip one of these guys, to double one of these guys. I got to have a back stay in to potentially pick up one of these guys before they bring all that heat on my quarterback. Ken, that's huge, right? If you can't get those 4 blocked with your 5, right? With your tackle to tackle, 5 on the offensive line, you got big issues, man. You got big trouble. So, again, I give a distinct advantage to Philadelphia there. And Kenny, again, while, of course, you've got to Patrick Mahomes has proven that many would say he's the best quarterback in the National Football League. I won't quibble with that. He's certainly right up there. His play has shown that. That having been said, though, I think Philadelphia will still be able to run the football behind their stalwart offensive line. And if they run the football, Ken, and they're going on those 7-minute, 75 to 85-yard drives that take 11 plays and wind up putting points on the board, well, what does that do? Keeps Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and that offense standing over there watching. So if Philadelphia is able to do that, and Ken, I think they will be able to do that, huge advantage. Put a huge check mark there to Philadelphia as well.
100% in agreement with you, Reg. I was looking at the numbers. Philly's defense, they've outscored the Eagles, and we tie in their defense. Philly's outscored their 2 opponents in the playoffs 69-14. 8 sacks in 2 games, 4 turnovers in 2 games in the biggest games of the year, right? And when you get those kind of numbers defensively, you really don't have to do a whole hell of a lot offensively, right? When your defense is playing at such a high level and they take care of the football, but they've scored 69 on offense. So they're doing it on both sides of the ball. Their special teams are solid as well, Reg. And Nick Sirianni's put a well-rounded team together. They believe in themselves. And it's not going to be easy. Mahomes magic with one leg. He was able to create enough of it to get to another Super Bowl. Now, how close to 100% will he be? I don't think he'll be 100%, but he showed that he's going to gut it out, and that goes a long way in that locker room with his teammates around him who are going to, try and provide that extra protection for him, knowing that he's limited in what he can do. I think something to keep an eye on, Reg. They were down to their last 2 receivers, I think, in that game yesterday, right? Yes. So, how healthy are the wideouts and the running backs along with Mahomes for Kansas City 2 weeks from now in this Super Bowl? Philadelphia looks pretty solid as far as health-wise goes. The Chiefs, though, a little bit banged up. And if you're not at your very best, like I said, against this Eagles team, it's going to be a tough team to defeat. And great point by you about the best defense is a good offense. If you can chew up the clock running it with your plethora of running backs and your quarterback, that keeps Mahomes on the sidelines, and he's not out there doing those magical things. So I just like the overall depth. I like the strength of both the offensive line and defensive line for the Eagles. And, Mahomes is going to have an MVP-type performance to lift the Chiefs to another Super Bowl victory. And I'm talking like 350, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and hope that 28 points is enough to beat the Eagles if he could muster that.
Yeah, you're right, because, again, tying everything up in a big bow with what we just said, as good as Mahomes is, it's kind of unfathomable, Ken, to see, KC putting up 35, 38, 42.
Right.
And I think Philly's going to put up to me 28, 31, 34. You're probably going to have to do that to beat them, and I just don't see them being able. Ken is, again, I just said it a moment ago. I don't think they're going to be on. I don't think they're going to have the football enough. Really, yeah. Their defense is going to have to 3 and outs or at least 1 first down and then out for Philadelphia. Well, nobody else has done it. No other defense has been able to do that, to get Hurts and that offense off the field with their ball control, somewhat kind of old school way of making offense happen and make it offense happen in a way that puts points on the board. Good luck with that. And if Kansas City can do all that and then have that fantastic type of day against then, hats off to them. Hats off to them. They will be, when we do our next show after that, I'll say what a spectacular performance, because as good as KC is, Ken, I think that's what it's going to have to take. Their best performance of the year and spectacular by Mahomes, and their defense finding a way to get Philadelphia off the field. Now, to me, Ken, that's a lot of things to overcome there to make happen.
Reg, if I'm Philadelphia, okay, obviously running the ball to keep them off the field, right? If I'm Kansas City, what I'm doing is I'm putting 8 in the box, and I'm saying, all right, Jalen, beat us throwing the football. And if you do, so be it. We're not going to let you, manhandle us running the football. We're going to put 7, 8 in the box. We're going to shut down your running game, give up very little on the ground, and make you beat us throwing the football and see if he can. That's what I would do if I'm Kansas. If I'm Spagnuolo in Kansas City, that I'm daring them to beat us throwing the football down the field. Let's see if he can do it. That's how I would approach it if I'm Kansas City defensively.
And that's the way to go. It is a right defensive approach, because if you allow that O-line of Philly to get lathered up and they start knowing that we can go get 5, 6, 7 yards of carry anytime we want, and we might as well not even play the game, because if that happens, Kansas City's got no shot. No shot. So, yes, Steve Spagnuolo and his crew, you're right. You're probably going to see a lot of 7 and 8 in the box, and now Hurts is going to have one-on-ones, with every one of his receivers. There'll be no too high. There'll be there might not even be single high, and from their safeties if you're going to put 7, 8 in the box. Yep. But as it might come down to that's what Kansas City has to do to get Philly's offense off the field.
All right, which of these storylines is most interesting to you for Super Bowl 57? All right, Andy Reid, former coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, took them to a Super Bowl, didn't win it, right? Now he's with Kansas City, won a Super Bowl there. It's his 3rd one, I believe, with Kansas City. So they're calling it the Andy Reid Bowl. That's one storyline. What about Old Man Kelsey's Super Bowl? Remember Ernest T. Bass from the Andy Griffith Show, right?
Sure.
Old Man Kelsey's Woods, Old Man Kelsey's right. Ocean, right? Well, this is Old Man Kelsey's Super Bowl. The brothers from Cuyahoga Heights, Jason and Travis Kelsey, going against each other. That's another storyline. Another local flavor storyline, Nick Sirianni, head coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, Mount Union wide receiver, national championship winner multiple times as a player, I think once or twice as a coach with Larry Karras. He's the head coach of the Eagles, trying to win their 2nd Super Bowl in 6 years. And of course, the other one that I didn't realize till it was brought up, and I guess because I don't think this way, I look at them as quarterbacks. I don't look at them as black quarterbacks.
Right.
But this is the first Super Bowl, Reg, where you will have 2 black quarterbacks going head-to-head as starters against each other in Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. So there's 4 storylines I laid out to you. Is there one that's more interesting to you or one that jumps out at you?
Yeah, well, the 2 African-American quarterbacks, and, that shows how the NFL has evolved a little bit as well, because, Ken, remember there were times, back when you and I were kids, if a African-American showed strong athleticism, the first thing they wanted to do when he came out of college is to get him in as a wide receiver or running back. Right. Without even getting a shot to show that he could be worthy and a strong winning NFL quarterback. So, that I think that's huge. To me, though, the Andy Reid story trumps that. And I'm a big Andy Reid guy. I always have been. I think, I remember him and met him, Ken, when he was an assistant coach with the Green Bay Packers.
Really?
Yeah, back that long ago. And I was always impressed by him. And I remember asking a few, NFL management types about, and they were right. And they said, this guy's got a real bright future because, that was during the Brett Favre time, right, with Philadelphia. And Andy has certainly, I think, really earned his stripes and spurs there in that Green Bay organization. And so I'm a huge admirer of him and what he does. And with a chance to now win a Super Bowl against the team that, he had his original and strongest coaching success. And I mean, they loved Andy Reid in Philly. And so here he is now. And it seems like, and it's genuine, I think, and he loves the city of Philadelphia.
Yes.
And that's genuine, what that did for him, what it meant to him, his family, how he always felt loved and taken care of by the Eagles ownership. And so, I think it's in the next 2 weeks, I think a lot more is going to come out about, Andy discussing his time as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, as they call them in Philly. And, I think that probably is going to. I believe that'll be the top storyline.
Yeah, for me, like I said, the two African American quarterbacks going against each other. Reg, I was raised. You treat everybody equally, so I'm just looking at them as quarterbacks. That's just the way my mind works. I don't see them as a black quarterback. I see them as a young quarterback trying to prove himself in the league and Hurts, and an established quarterback that's the best in the game, in my opinion, in Mahomes. So, but I get why it's going to be important to some people out there, maybe a lot of people out there, going all the way back to Doug Williams. Heck, I brought Joe Gilliam, was a quarterback with the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the day.
Street Joe.
Yeah, Jefferson Street Joe was a backup. Again, I looked at him as a quarterback back then, not a black quarterback. But I can understand why there are a lot of people that will view that storyline maybe as the one that's most important. But for me, they're quarterbacks. They're playing in the NFL, and now they got a shot at winning the Super Bowl. One of the two is going to win, and they're going to hoist the Vince Lombardi trophy. So for me, that's just two guys playing the game that they love. The Kelsey Bowl is going to be fun to watch. I saw Jason yesterday on Twitter said, I'm no longer a Kansas City Chiefs fan this year because it's time that he's going up against his brother. And his brother's a unique dude, man, with his persona and the love with which he plays the game. And he was hurt yesterday, caught a touchdown pass. He's going to have a big game as well. Obviously, Jason's a center, so he's not in one of the skill position roles. But he's as important, I think, to the Eagles offense as the center as Travis is to the Chiefs offense as a tight end. They both are mucho importante in the roles that they play for each of their teams.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, we've kind of alluded to the offensive line and how strong it is as a group with the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, and Jason Kelsey is the center. He's the one that calls out as the team lines up. He calls out all the adjustments, the blocking assignments if they want to change it on a particular play. So he very much is, and I think he's all right, one of the best centers in the National Football League. Centers don't get a lot of attention. Even if you look at an offensive lineman, it's usually the left tackle. And once in a while, as Browns fans are finding out, and with a Joel Bitonio, right? You've got a guard that people are saying, hey, he's one of the best in the NFL. So Jason Kelsey is the guy there that kind of really is a heartbeat of what turns out to be that Philly run game. So there are a lot of terrific angles and ways you can go about this. And who's got the Super Bowl? Is it CBS that has the Super Bowl? Oh, Fox has the Super Bowl.
They've got it this year.
So who is it going to be? It going to Burkhardt and Olsen?
I think so. Yeah, I think those guys, they're the number one team. they're going to call the Super Bowl, and you're going to have Tom Rinaldi and Aaron Andrews, I believe, on the sidelines.
Boy, Kevin Burkhardt. Now Greg Olson, I really think does a hell of a job for, I really think that he can explain things in a way that, don't have too much X and O attached to it and too much sophistication attached to it. For that, I think he's done a real nice job. So, that's going to be interesting. All the guys that have done, I was listening to some, of the late Dick Enberg and Merlin Olsen, Kenny. And
right.
Remember when the Super Bowl started to become a thing? Those two guys were together for so many years with it. And, of course, Madden and Summerall.
Oh, my. Yeah, without question. Dick Enberg loved him.
Right. Yeah, Dick Enberg, God rest his soul, one of the very, very best ever. And, it's going to be one that, every angle of it's going to be talked about, whether that's the, in the television booth, Kenny, all the way down to all the things that you and I laid out from the Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chief perspective this week. So I don't like the 2 weeks
I hate
before the game, man.
Hate it.
Why
Absolutely
can't we get back to playing it next Sunday like it should be?
Yeah. Well, they've got to do the flag football game known as the Pro Bowl in between there. That's why got to give them time to do the flag football game and the passing skills and all that
with
stuff.
That,
right?
Partner, you make my head hurt with that kind of nonsense.
Hey, we got the Manning brothers coaching the flag football game. That's TV
that?
gold right there, according to the NFL. So
how about that?
Yeah, Reg. The only good thing is having been to the Super Bowl numerous times from a fan's perspective, not at the game itself, but my team there, the Steelers. Okay. Right. It's nice when you have 2 weeks to heal some of the wounds if you are banged up. That's the only positive that I look at the 2 weeks. It's for the guys that are hurt and banged up. You mentioned Bitonio as one of the Browns players going to that Pro Bowl, and now Wyatt Teller is a replacement player as well. Let's go and close out this edition of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast with how far away are the Browns after watching these championship games this past weekend and knowing it's Kansas City in the Super Bowl once again against Philadelphia once again. Where do you see the Browns compared to these teams?
Kenneth, I hate to be real elementary here, but can we get a Ouija board out and give us how is Deshaun Watson going to play the quarterback position for the Cleveland Football Browns? Because isn't that kind of going to be the biggest element in the script for 2023? Are we going to get the Deshaun Watson that the reason that the Haslam family decided to give him $230 million guaranteed because of the couple of years that he had? No question. Listen, we've said it. We're very, very good, bordering on elite, with a bad franchise in the Houston Texans. If Deshaun Watson, and Kenny, if he can, throw for 3,500 plus yards next year, up on 4,000 yards, and maybe have those touchdowns and passes, I'd like to see it up around 30 with the interceptions down. Now we're talking something here. But I don't know. What kind of odds do you put on that being reality? Do you see him, again, reestablishing himself? As we said, there were 2 extremely good years and 1 solid year with the Houston Texans for Deshaun Watson. Is it going to be that Deshaun Watson that takes the football, every snap for 17 games from the Cleveland Browns, if there is? Well, Kenny, again, we kind of know don't know what order, but we know whom the Browns are going to play, right, schedule-wise. So I don't know. I mean, again, if you're an optimist, I don't think anything less than 10-7 is something that you'd want to say I'll accept, right?
Reg, I was just looking it up. NFL all-time passer rating leaders in the history of the game. Career, okay?
Oh, it's just career? Yeah.
Yep. Patrick Mahomes, number 1, 105.7 quarterback rating. Aaron Rodgers, number 2, 103.6. Deshaun Watson, number 3 all-time, 102.3. He's going to have to be that Deshaun Watson if the Browns are going to have any chance, because you're going up against Burrow twice a year in your own division. Yep. You've got Allen in Buffalo. You've got Mahomes in Kansas City. So if the Browns are going to challenge in the division, in the conference, then yes, Deshaun Watson needs to revert back to that Deshaun Watson that's number 3 all time, and not the Deshaun Watson that I saw for 6 games this year that was average at best. And I know it was 700 days and all the off the field stuff, but he brought that crap on himself. Okay. He did. So he better, have gotten that out of his system off the field and on the field from being rusty in those 6 games that he played. He better be studying his ass off, working his ass off, and coming in and being ready to be that $46 million man next year, because that's what he's getting paid to be the starting quarterback in 2023 for the Cleveland Browns. And yeah, it comes down to that. Joe Woods gone. Good to see him out of here. Schwartz in as the D coordinator. That side of the ball needs to, obviously be cleaned up and made better, but make no mistake about it, the Browns will go as far as Deshaun Watson takes them.
Without a doubt. Absolutely 1,000,000%. And Kenny, brought up another thing too. Andrew Berry, I think a strong move with Jim Schwartz.
Yep.
But you better get that damn defensive roster fortified, man. You need a couple of interior D linemen. You need linebackers big time. And you know what? You could probably use you could use another strong, whether it's a slot guy, whether it's your 5th DB, you got to get that taken care of. So this whole defensive unit can get Jim Schwartz some guys that are angry and want to go after people and play his kind of defense. To me, that's the second biggest thing that's got to happen. Roster building, just getting better, especially on the defensive side of the football. And so, Ken, so Andrew Berry has got a job to do this offseason. He's got to make it happen. And, and I hope he and Jim Schwartz are basically together, 4 or 5 hours each day, looking at tape and saying, this is what show other players. This is the type of player I need, right, to implement my defense the way we want to play it here. Because, Ken, we know, we don't have to go a long time on it. Hey, it's got to get better. It's got to get stronger, more impactful, or, Deshaun Watson, if he reverts back to his Houston days, might be losing games 38-35 every week if they don't.
Reg, we're in agreement on that as well, and we'll see what Mr. Berry does. I was writing it down. Let's see here. I wrote down some important dates. The salary cap went up to $224.8 million, but the Browns are supposedly going to be $14.6 million over the cap. So they need to make some roster moves, and they're talking about maybe restructuring Deshaun Watson's contract a little bit to try and get that done. So we'll see what Andrew Berry can make out of that. The league year begins March 15th at 4 p.m. Free agent signings can begin that day. Trades can be made that day. So March 15th, the biggest day, the legal tampering can begin March 13th at 12 o'clock, where you can start trying to figure out who you want to try and sign and convince the agent this is the right place. So next to February 12th, the Super Bowl, those are the important dates to keep in mind, and we'll see what Andrew Berry does this offseason. All right, Reg, before we get out of here, I think you and I are leaning Eagles for Super Bowl 57. We're still a ways away, but maybe we'll get another one in before the Super Bowl is played, Reg. But am I right? We're leaning Eagles in Super Bowl 57, you and I?
I'm firm on the Eagles,
okay,
sir.
All right.
Firm, yeah. Unless something happens that, as we said, in these 2 weeks, that would change personnel and being able to play. I feel strongly that the Eagles are going to be victorious and be the Super Bowl champs this year.
Yeah, I'm leaning that way right now too. Right? There's that gambling term I'm using on a regular basis now. Right?
Huh?
I'm lean. Got a strong lean towards Philadelphia in SB 57. I'm not going to try and do the Roman numerals. I gave up on that a while ago.
So, are you? So you're starting to fire. What do you? What do you? MGM, DraftKings. Who do you go? Who do you go with?
Well, the apps that I use, Reg, I'm looking at my phone right now. If I want a micro bet, that's Logan Paul's app, the Better app, BETR.
Logan Paul.
Oh, yeah, Logan Paul. He's got an app. It's the micro betting. You bet on every play. Pass, run, touchdown, field goal, sack, interception, all that stuff, right?
Why didn't that surprise me with Logan Paul? Just go ahead and put something up on every play, every snap that's taken.
There you go. Yeah, make money on every single play. Old man Kelsey's gambling. I've got a Barstool app. I've got a Tipico Sports app, which is USA Today connections, I guess. And BetMGM is the main one that I use. I use those other ones because they gave me free money. If you're going to give me free money to bet, I'm going to try and win with your money. And then when I lose your money, then I'm done. But BetMGM is the one that I use on a regular basis, and I get a lot of information from BetMGM. And of course, we've got MGM Northfield Park is the sponsor of the show. So we love what they do with their app. I think theirs is the best in the business right now. I'm not a DraftKings guy. I'm not a FanDuel guy. That goes back to the old fantasy football days and issues I had with them. So I'll pass on those guys. So I'm a BetMGM app guy for most of my bets. And Reg, I was smart enough when these free bets came out, with these apps, because Ohio's just, getting started with this.
Right.
I was smart enough to take some of my free bets before the playoffs started with the futures and put some down on the Eagles and the Chiefs.
Oh, very good.
I had the Bengals, Bills, Eagles, Chiefs. I thought the Eagles were coming out of the NFC for sure. So I didn't. Well, you know what? No, I threw just for what and giggles. No, I put a bunch on Dallas because the odds were ridiculous. In case they got on a roll. But most of it was on the Eagles to come out of the NFC, so I'm good there. And then it was Bills, Bengals, Chiefs in the AFC. So as long as San Francisco didn't win this weekend, I was good, man.
Good.
I got a winner somewhere in there for some amount of money, no matter who wins the Super Bowl, Philadelphia or Kansas City.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you got some cash money coming back. And as on Saturday, partner, I wished you a very happy birthday. Finally hit 39, did you? 39 years old is my partner, Kenny Rhoda.
Yeah. It's the 20th anniversary of my 39th birthday, Reg.
Oh, next year is going to be fun then.
Oh, yeah.
You wait. See, I've been there already. I'm already Reg, in that decade, baby.
You are, but I already feel that and then some, okay? With my shoulder and my hip and everyday aches and pains, getting out of bed's a chore, man, let alone playing on a high ankle sprain with big guys chasing after you like Patrick Mahomes,
and that's something. You and I both. February 10th, I'm going to find out if I need a hip replacement. I got a feeling I do. So you and I'll be able to. Yeah.
Well, we can. Hey, why don't we go in same time and do our rehab together then, Red? Physical therapy together.
Do R&R prep.
No rest and relaxation though. They'll be working our tails or our hips off in that situation, man. So
that's for sure. But hope you had a real good birthday. Sounds like you did. I know you were working the hockey game, but that's good. I'm sure you were able to take some time for yourself and have an adult beverage and celebrate you, man. It's important we do that now. Like I said, I'm already. I got 9 years on you, man.
Okay, all right.
So I'm closer to you. I'm just almost as close to 70 as you are to 60.
Gotcha.
So how the hell did it come to this, Kenny?
Flew by.
It's like, man.
Man. Yeah.
What our parents told us all those years. Never from my mom. Don't wish your life away, Michael. Don't wish your life away. Don't be talking about what's going to happen in a month, and don't worry about it. Right? And they, as usual, our parents were always right.
Listen to Mama Reggae. I hope you did.
Yeah,
You sounded like you did for many, many years.
I did.
And,
I did.
So that's
And
good.
Mama and Daddy Reggae too. They brought down that hard hand sometimes, but I needed it. So, it's a good thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good thing. Yeah.
All right, Reg, thanks for the birthday wishes. We'll do this again real soon. Thanks again to Ty Courts producing this craziness. We drive them crazy. What time's the podcast? What time are we taping? Oh, am I supposed to be on with you guys? We got to change. Can we do it? Ty, God bless you. Thank you. You're a saint for dealing with two old guys like us, man. We appreciate it. You do a fantastic job. All right, Reg, we'll do this again real soon here on the Press Play Podcast Network, the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park.